Easy overnight chocolate caramel cinnamon rolls, and you don't even have to make the dough the night before, and no need to let these bad boys cool down before frosting them, because we are going to be making the chocolate or the caramel sauce in the bottom of the pan before we even bake them. This is my favorite thing to have on Christmas morning. Well, let's be honest, pretty much any morning, but especially when they come out of the oven and are nice and warm, and I didn't have to do hardly any work to get them that way. So first up, we are going to prep our pan. We've got a half a cup of melted butter, and I like to bake my cinnamon rolls in cast iron. I feel like it gives them a better texture, and they poof up more because they're forced together in that circle, but you can also do this in a 9x13 pan. I've got a 10-inch cast iron skillet, and then I've got my smaller one here. I think this one's a 6-inch. Yeah, 6-inch. So I'm just gonna eyeball divvying up this half a cup of our melted butter in the bottom of the pan, doing obviously a little bit more in the larger pan. Now, if you need to be dairy-free, then you can absolutely use melted coconut oil. Either way is fine. They taste great both ways. I happen to love the salted butter, however. So next, we're just gonna take a half a cup of brown sugar, and you're just gonna sprinkle it in there. I'm gonna swirl this around just a little bit, make sure I get the whole bottom of that cast iron pan coated. There we go. And then I'm just gonna take this and sprinkle it over the top. And as this bakes and melts, it makes a wonderful, delicious caramel sauce. So we'll get the majority of this in this one, and then I'll just do a small amount on the other pan. As you can see, there's not a lot of exact precision and measuring in this recipe. It's very forgiving, and it's gonna taste awesome. All right, we've got our pans prepped, so we're just gonna go ahead and set these aside. Now, a lot of people will make cinnamon rolls the night before Christmas, on Christmas Eve, or do overnight cinnamon rolls where you prep everything and then in the morning you just bake the dough and you take it out of the fridge. But if you're like me, on Christmas Eve, we actually host Christmas Eve for one side of the family, and then the next morning we host for the other side of the family. Most of us do not have time on Christmas Eve to be prepping a bunch of dough, waiting for it to rise and mixing it up. So I bring you the master dough recipe, and we're gonna be turning it into these cinnamon rolls. So if you caught my video on how to make the no-knead easy beginner artisan bread, you already know how fast and quick this dough is to whip up, and it stays in the fridge for up to 14 days until your heart desires to bake whatever you want from it. I'll have a link to that video so you can go and check it to get this. But here we have half of our dough, and we are going to turn this into our cinnamon rolls. So this has been sitting in my fridge for 5 days. Now that I want to bake cinnamon rolls, we're ready to go. When you're making it into cinnamon rolls, we're going to need to add additional flour. Now, this recipe is also in my book, Handmade, but you can also hop over to the blog and get a printable version of this recipe. So I'm going to take about, let's see, I had my brown sugar in here. It's all out. About a half a cup to begin with. And we really want to generously coat the counter here, because this is a very wet dough, and when we need it to roll it out for cinnamon rolls, we don't want it sticking to the counter. So I'm just going to use a pretty heavy sprinkling of the flour there. Just kind of even that out a little bit. And then I'm also going to get this on my hands, because as I scrape this dough out of the bowl, I don't want it to stick all over my hands. I'm just gonna go in, kind of scoop it off the sides. I just kind of use my hands. You could use a dough scraper if you want to, but I feel like your fingers, your hands are some of the best tools that you have in the kitchen. So I'm just gonna scrape like that. You can see it is a little bit sticky, but not too bad. Didn't stick to me too bad. The last bit of that out. All right. Now we got to get our rolling pin. I've tried lots of different rolling pins in the past, like marble ones and granite ones, and honest to goodness, I feel like the best ones are just the wooden ones. I feel like they work the absolute best. So we're gonna definitely get that floured. And then we also need to flip this over because this part needs a good coating of flour as well. So we're basically just getting lots of flour on here. Like I said, this is a very wet dough. And don't worry, it's not like you're gonna taste flour once these are baked. It's just to help keep it from sticking. So now just take your floured rolling pin and we're just gonna roll this out into a rectangle. And you kind of want to just check a little bit, especially under this end. This is the way I'm going to roll. Make sure there's enough flour under here that it doesn't stick. And we can manage that pretty well, so that's pretty good. Now we've got our softened butter, and we're going to smear this 1/4 cup all on top of our prepared dough here. Okay, up next, we are gonna do is it a 1/2 or a 1/4 cup? See, I have to use my own recipe book. 1/2 cup of brown sugar again. So I'll dump my flour back out. And to keep things clean, I'm just gonna go ahead and do 2/4 cups. So I'm just gonna sprinkle that brown sugar. Got a couple of clumps in there. Now I just eyeball how much cinnamon we like and just gonna sprinkle that over the top. Just kind of like a generous dusting. Now up next, you can totally do raisins if you want, but I did say chocolate caramel cinnamon rolls. My family does not like raisins. I don't know what's wrong with them. I happen to like raisins and cinnamon rolls, but they don't. So majority wins in the house and they get to have the chocolate caramel rolls. So we're gonna take our chocolate chips, and really this is just a preference. If you like a lot of chocolate, use a bunch of chocolate chips. If you like less, use less. And we're just gonna sprinkle these all over the top in our dough here. Oops, and get a few off to the side. Okay, now we're gonna roll this up. So I always start at this end, and our dough is not sticking at all. So if you used enough flour, you should be fine. And you're just gonna kind of roll it up like you would a sleeping bag. So we're just gonna start, we're just gonna go tight. Try to go tight, and it kind of pushes the chocolate chips a little bit, but they'll get in there. And then we're just gonna keep rolling this up. Okay, so now we need to cut these. And the easiest and best way, in my opinion, to cut cinnamon rolls so that they do not get smushed is to use thread. So you can use any thread you want. I happen to like the quilter's thread because it's a little bit heavier gauge, but this gives you a nice clean cut. So we're just gonna come in here on the end. You're just gonna lift it up and go underneath it there. And the end pieces are always a little bit the smallest ones. You're just gonna crisscross it and pull it tight. And there we go. So we're gonna start by putting these into our already prepared cast iron pan. So I kind of like to cut and then put them in here as I go. Totally up to you. Now here you have two options. Because we're doing this for Christmas morning baking and doing the overnight route, these bad boys are gonna get covered and go in the fridge for overnight. However, there's no need to wait for overnight if you have the time and you wanna serve them now. So you can just let the rolls rise till they're double and then bake them. But we're gonna get these covered so that we can have them baked right from the fridge. We're gonna let those chill and I will show you how easy it is to bake them in the morning. So your rolls might rise a little bit overnight in the fridge, and they might be a little bit bigger, but they're not gonna be quite doubled in size just from sitting in a cold fridge. So we are going to preheat our oven to 175 degrees. So if your oven doesn't go down that low, just put it down as low as you can get it. And with our cast iron, because it's cold, it's been sitting in the fridge, we actually want to set these in here while it's preheating, because we don't want to put that cold cast iron, I don't anyways, into a really hot oven. So we're going to let that slowly, those are going to preheat, and we're only preheating it, as I said, to that 175 degrees, and then we're going to turn the oven off. So once it reaches 175 degrees, we'll take a look at them. If the cinnamon rolls have doubled in size, then we'll go ahead and just preheat it to the full baking temperature, which is 375 degrees Fahrenheit. But if they're not quite there yet, then we'll just let them sit in this warm oven until they've doubled. It usually doesn't take them very long. Usually it's only like 20 to 30 minutes when I'm just letting them double, when I've pulled the dough from the fridge and I'm rolling it and I'm not doing the overnight method. So it shouldn't take them very long at all. And the great thing is it's really no hands-on time. So we're just getting these warmed up while we're going. Usually what I'll do is do this part and then I'll go and get dressed. Like I'll do it before I even get dressed when we want to have them early in the morning for something. And then I'll come back after that and just finish the process. So it only takes about 5 minutes to get up to 175 degrees Fahrenheit, and then you just want to turn the oven off. We don't want to bake them at this point. We just are creating a really nice warming environment so that they will double a lot faster. So you can see just in the 5 minutes, like my butter is starting to melt back down again, but these need to get quite a bit larger and spread out and up and be touching. So we're just going to put them in here with this door shut, and I'll come back and check them in about 15 minutes. So it's been 15 minutes in our warming oven here, and you can see these have really, they're all touching now and they're starting to rise up. So we're gonna go ahead and pull these out, and then you're gonna wanna preheat your oven to the regular baking temperature, which is 375 degrees. So we're at 375, and you can see from the warmth of this cast iron, even them sitting out while the oven was warming, they have continued to double. So we're gonna set the time for 20 minutes and we'll check them. It's 20 to 25 minutes. We just want them to be golden on top. So I always check it at 20 minutes and then we'll give them additional time if needed. Okay guys, it has been right at the 20 minutes. So we're gonna check, and it's not quite, it's just beginning to brown up here, but it's not quite golden browned all the way yet. So I'm gonna go ahead, check this bigger pan. Yeah, nope, not quite done yet. So we're gonna go ahead and let these cook for about 4 to 5 more minutes. Okay guys, let's see if these are brown. Oh yeah, so you can see these are getting a lot more golden. Perfect on top. So I'm gonna pull the little pan out here. Sometimes those get done a little bit faster. Let's go ahead and check the big one. Yep, so I'm gonna just spin this around, and we're gonna let the larger pan here go for 2 more minutes. But we're gonna get this one inverted so you can see all of the lovely caramel chocolate stickiness. So this is super hot. You wanna use a hot pad. I don't wanna put any burn rings onto my island here or burn myself, but we need to invert this while it is still hot, because as soon as it begins to cool, that means all of your caramel sauce will begin to cool, and we want it to drip down all the way on top. So we are going to flip this over. And you can see the little bits of the caramel sauce there, and there's a little bit here in the pan, so I'm gonna get a spatula and dump that on, or scrape it out on top. Because one should never, ever waste good caramel sauce. So you just wanna make sure that your plate obviously is big enough to hold everything. Let me get that And this one almost wants to fit in there just like this. So just hold it steady. There we go. Same thing, you'll see lots of the little bits of the caramel sauce still here and the chocolate that has dripped out. So we just want to scrape that out on top. And now there's no need to dirty up another dish or pan to make frosting because you have all of this awesome caramel sticky sauce right on top and baked into your cinnamon rolls. So for more holiday recipes, you want to make sure that you watch my old-fashioned molasses sugar cookie video because they are definitely worth baking this holiday season, as well as the easy no-knead artisan bread recipe. Because we've got breakfast and dessert covered, we might as well throw something in there for dinner and lunch as well.